Welcome to the Do Everything with Love podcast. This is your boy, Davey Baby.
What's up, y'all? Myron.
Steven.
Amber.
And we have a very special guest with us once again. Let's make some noise for Dante Shepard in the house tonight.
Woo-hoo. What's up, everybody?
Hand clap.
Yeah, so if you don't already know, Dante is a leader and a producer, or the producer, I should say, of Bridgeway Community Church's Sunday services. It's a local church here in Columbia, Maryland that has over 10,000 members. And so, with that being said, let me take it to my boy, Waddy. Take it away, sir.
So, how's everybody doing today?
What's up, man?
Let's run it down. Let's catch up. Myron, what's going on, brother?
I'm thirsty.
That's good. It's good water.
It is. Columbia water. Yeah, just still recovering. Get my mobility back, trying to get out on the trails. As soon as some of this temperature dies down, I'm more of a fall rider anyway. So I'm fine with taking a break right now. Looking forward to doing some night riding.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. You know,
Dangerous.
get your headlamps on. Well, I mean, as long as
those bike parties?
Sounds peaceful.
yeah, as long as you got some good lighting on you, the trails are more or less safe. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Sounds fun. Dante, how you doing, brother?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing pretty good. Things are well. Managing my time and energy as best as I can. I'm having to reconcile the fact that I'm getting old. And it's not a big deal because I don't really feel super limited.
You don't look old.
Thank you. But I don't feel really limited in any. I don't feel like I can't do anything that I used to be able to do. I still feel. Thank God, I physically feel good. Arguably the best shape of my life. Mm-hmm. But I started getting heartburn a couple months ago, and it's really bothering me. If I eat spicy foods, I have heartburn. And
so you're officially old now because you get heartburn?
Yeah.
Not from pepperoni though, right?
Not from pepperoni,
Right,
but if I had heartburn the day before and I eat something mildly spicy, it can act up. So I got to figure that out. I don't know if it's acid reflux or heartburn because I think there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also I heard that heartburn could also be induced from stress, but I don't think I'm stressed. I just need a lot of these questions answered.
I feel as though you'd know if you're stressed.
Nah.
I think
Sometimes people don't.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And maybe the heartburn is telling me to pay attention to something I'm not paying attention to. I don't know the answer, but
Dang, now I gotta reevaluate my life.
It's kind of where I
I'm
am.
not sure if you need to see a doctor or a therapist.
I think both.
Oh, David, also known as
Davey Baby.
Hey.
If you don't know, now you know.
Starting now.
Now I'm doing well. Can't complain. For me, just trying to stay active. Of course, as a creative, just continuing to figure out ways to be creative. I do music and writing and producing. So, same tune, different day.
Very cool, man. I was doing fantasy football this year. I'm in 3 leagues.
Oh, wow.
Which
Me too,
last
man.
year was my first year ever playing fantasy football. And I was like, sure, I'll do it because, it's like a little bit of camaraderie in the office. And, man, you really get into it, and, boy, you start spending way too much time.
I'll go to
looking up
YouTube.
Stats. My whole algorithm's jacked up from YouTube now. But, yeah, that's been for me as well, it's been the latest. And, I'm super excited for Sunday, kicking off NFL season. So I'll probably have to limit myself. Put some guardrails on the amount of time I spend in fantasy football, but
This Sunday, football starts?
it started Thursday.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then this is the first football Sunday.
Yeah, I try to keep it to Sundays, and we usually have writing sessions on Thursday night football, so I try to, sacrifice football time for the band. So
It's 50-50. Amber, how you doing?
Opposite of David, trying to stay active. I'm trying to rest, but sometimes it doesn't work out. But yes, I'm focused on trying my best to make sure I'm well rested for all the things that are ahead, because I will be relocating out of the country indefinitely. I'll be returning, just don't know when. That is top of mind for me. I will be heading to Nigeria. Very excited.
Exciting.
Wow.
Exciting.
Yeah.
But a lot to do. So I'm trying to rest in between and make sure I do that in a way that makes sense, and still be able to see all the folks that I need to see, like you all, before I go. I'm trying to balance all of that. Balance all that it takes to relocate, as well as making sure my body rests.
Yeah. Well, I know we're all excited for you. It's gonna be really, really good.
Yeah.
Onyeka, if you're listening, just know we love you, man. It's all love.
Yeah. So that's why we just don't know. It just depends on
Waiting on
when we
that paperwork to come through.
Yeah, for the interview date. And then once that happens, which they don't really tell you when, we'll be back. So indefinitely. But hopefully that indefinitely would turn into sometime soon. And we'll be back here.
I know that immigration process is no joke. So.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like not even Americans can pass that test.
Heck, especially Americans.
Yeah, citizenship test. Like.
Oh yeah, when that comes, yeah.
I may have to study. Yeah, I'd have to study for it.
We gotta move on to this ad.
Hey y'all, this is Amber, president of Let Love Rise Foundation Incorporated, and we have officially launched. Check out letloverise.org. If you are a community organization with volunteer needs, go and sign up on our platform to promote all of your volunteer needs. And if you are a volunteer looking for ways to connect to your local community, looking for ways to make a difference, go on letloverise.org to sign up for these volunteer events. I'll see y'all at the next event.
All right, so we're doing a series called Millennial Trends in the Church, and it's been, I would have to say, some of the best conversation I think I've had in a while, going over these different topics. The topic for today is it good to only attend church online? So we have my friend and special guest, Dante Shepard here, as a producer who also has to think about online services, online patrons, online members that are watching. They put on a full production, even for, actually specifically for people that watch their services online. So definitely glad he's here. Before we even dive into that question, I want to ask some preliminary questions to kind of provide more context here. I wanted to go around the room here and ask, what did church look like for you growing up? And what does it look like for you now? Dante, why don't we start with you first, and we can go around from there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up attending Bridgeway Community Church, which it's a non-denominational church, and Sunday mornings obviously was the thing. Attended every week. It was just something in my family rhythm that we did. Sunday was church, and we always went unless we were out of town or something. And then when I got to be, a teenager, Wednesday nights was like youth group night. And then Sunday was church. And then actually Sunday evening, I would attend a Bible study with some friends. So, yeah, I grew up very active in the church, attending youth events as a kid and going on retreats and, camps and things like that. Now, so now I work full time for Bridgeway. And working full time for a church is a little bit of an interesting dynamic because that is my vocation, and I'm in the church building a lot. And so attending church is a little bit different, and I need to make sure pretty regularly that, I'm carving out that time to still be fed and to still glean the things that I need to glean from the word. Because yes, it is work, but also the good thing about it is that I am under what I believe to be solid teaching and authentic leadership. I do believe I'm surrounded by that. Okay. So I feel like even when I'm working, I'm still able to worship when I'm surrounded by such gifted musicians like yourselves, leading us in worship, and then hearing the word in the midst of being at work. I do believe I'm still able to receive the things I need, and then I have opportunities to visit other churches or attend conferences or workshops and things like that. So I would say it's kind of like the full spectrum of experiences that I get to have.
So so church for you is not just Sunday; it's pretty much every day of your life. Yeah, especially because you work for. But it's interesting that you're dividing the two between work and also meeting the need to make sure that you're getting fed right under, like you said, authentic.
And I understand that it's difficult for some people. It is a challenge. For sure, yeah. We're all different people, and not everyone is able to compartmentalize quite the way the next person might. So I do understand and acknowledge the challenge of those that are in vocational ministry, or you guys, if you're leading worship at a church, it's different than you going to receive and to be ministered to. So I do acknowledge that, and my heart really does go out for those that are in vocational ministry that find it a challenge to go and be fed.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool. Amber, how about you? What did church look like for you growing up, and what does it look like now?
Growing up, yeah. So growing up, I grew up in a Baptist church in Silver Spring. It's actually called the People's Community Baptist Church. And what I remember, every Sunday, I particularly enjoyed going to church as a child. We had Bible study nights. I forget which days it was on. Mm-hmm. And then we also had Vacation Bible School.
So you were in church. So you were in church multiple times a week.
Not multiple times a week. We had Sundays, and then there was a day that we had Bible study, and then Vacation Bible School was like the summer period.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, the summer period. Yeah,
that one summer camp week.
Yeah, with the fried fish and.
Did you enjoy vacation? Like, did you look forward to it?
Oh yes, because I looked forward to the fried fish. The fried fish, the friends.
I ain't never had no fried fish. Vacation Bible School.
Yeah, I remember those fried fish,
hot dogs,
and the church picnics. Yeah, those church picnics with that fried, because we had land. The church has land that's like a little ways back, and that's where all of the outdoor picnic activity and vacation Bible school activity was. But yeah, that's childhood. And then now, as an adult, I started going to a non-denominational church, following after my older sister, who was in downtown Silver Spring at the time. And I had just recently graduated from the University of Maryland. She was going to Terps. And we were going to a church that was actually unconventional, or so to speak, at the time, back in 2012. It was actually in a movie theater. And I think that's what really got people captivated with the music that would be blasting through the theater. Uh-huh. And I think that also drew people who knows, may have had church hurt from growing up and going to a church building or going to traditional church setting. So we had a lot of people that were just captivated by the atmosphere of being in non-denominational setting, as well as a setting that's outside of a church building.
Now, how often are you going to church now?
And now we go every Sunday.
You go every
Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. Okay. Well, typically every Sunday, because I also
church. I was say you also serve
in
the church
so I serve in the church.
Now, does that require more time or?
It does, but it's more so
or does that just happen on Sunday or?
Yeah, and then throughout the week as well. But it's different than Dante's, where it's that's his actual vocation.
Yeah,
I'm outside of it, I'm in the tech industry.
Yeah,
and that's my full time.
Right.
But when it comes to doing guest service director, which is a volunteer role within the church that I go to, it's time outside of the church, but not as much as if it's your full time role, and that's actually what you're getting paid to do.
Right.
And
as guest services, I guess that's more catered toward people that are newcomers that are coming in on
newcomers
Sunday.
as well as our members as well. We want everyone to feel welcomed. We serve them coffee and tea.
Nice.
We make sure we're have
so
a
you make
bright
sure
smile.
that the coffee beans are fresh and
yeah, all of that. Yeah, and
From
just the setting. Yeah, the bathrooms. Because we're not in a traditional church building, we make sure that everything is
so hospitality is built into
the hospitality and everything, because sometimes we're in schools, we're in movie theaters and things like that, and personally for me I enjoy that as long as it's in person. So that's what
sounds like you've been pretty active in church your whole life.
Yeah, pretty much a whole life. Yeah, even throughout college as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's my experience.
A little insight. Why? How about you? Growing up versus now?
I grew up in a small, predominantly black church. I think from maybe first grade-ish time frame up through high school. And after high school, I probably stopped going to church for a little bit. You're an undergrad, and you try to find I guess maybe a church at the school you go to, but that wasn't really vibing with that, and it wasn't really Bible based every Sunday. So I was like, then I started going to a large church back home.
...
Yeah. That's another podcast. I started going to a large church back home. It was actually Bridgeway, and that was really, really cool. I dug it, so I went there for a long time. Then I started serving in the music ministry. Met a lot of good friends. I mean, I think we've all met kind of almost through church. Well, not you.
Not me.
Not
But
you.
my best friend goes to Bridgeway.
But
She grew up in Bridgeway.
Dante.
Your best friend? I know that.
Who's your best friend?
Yes, Amaka.
Who?
Amaka.
Amaka?
Yes.
I don't.
It's a big church.
Yeah. I met Dante there, met David there. So,
Yeah.
So you met a lot of great people there. Then at some point, you get asked to serve, or you get asked to help out with other music ministries in different churches. So, and then I started splitting my time serving a very small church and then a very big church. So Bridgeway and then another small church. And for my personality type, somebody that's super adaptable, I kind of like change and trying new things out. I really enjoy the dichotomy between the two. And then you meet a lot of really cool people, a lot of great people. Now I'd say I have learned it's important that you do schedule in some downtime, a break, or so to speak. A church word is a sabbatical.
Yes.
But if you are somebody that's serving pretty heavy in church as a volunteer or what have you, I think it is good to program for yourself personally. A Sunday where you can just go and receive. You should be receiving anyway while you are serving, but I think you do need that break. So that's where I'm currently at now, and it's a good balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dope. Yeah, so it sounds like you've had a very varied experience.
Yeah.
Church from growing up to now.
Yeah,
and you got to experience large church in a smaller church setting too.
Yeah, and then once you start traveling a little bit, and you start to see
Start
Midwest
seeing-
church,
start seeing things.
West Coast church,
Yeah.
a little church in England where they serve some pints,
That's right.
Serve some pints.
A
beer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think y'all did. Okay, yeah, that's
But
for
yeah.
no whole other conversation. Interesting.
But yeah, you are correct, David.
Awesome. Let's go over here to my brother Myron. I didn't forget about you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David knows we grew up in the same church. Small church, started out in school, got a little office building, grew naturally, grew to a bigger church. I started out in music ministry fairly young, even before I was playing guitar. My mom had me up there singing, and being the introvert that I am, hated it every step of the way. But it just became something you did.
You can imagine his face on stage.
But yeah, I learned to play guitar. Ended up learning to play drums. Our youth group really started thriving, and all of a sudden, like, a lot of youth just like, oh, I'm interested in playing instruments. I didn't know you play. I didn't know you play. Like, I knew David for a long time. Didn't even know he played piano. And it was like, oh, let's start a band. And all of a sudden, people start getting on fire to praise and worship. Like, kids who were just like knuckleheads before started getting, wanting to come out to youth on Friday nights. And, people be up there rapping spontaneously. People would just make up songs spontaneously.
People speaking in tongues.
It was an amazing time. Yeah, and it was just a dope experience in the Lord. Like, I was there for a while, then I ended up going to another church because of a girl I was dating. Then my mom ended up taking over the music ministry because of some drama that was happening there. And she begged me to come back. I was like, all right, fine.
No names, brother. No names.
Yeah, so I mean that was a good experience up until it wasn't.
And so what's church look like for you now?
Church looks for me now. I'm doing the thing I never thought I'd be doing. I'm a pastor.
What?
Got him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's a super small church, but just the idea of like being
The mantle.
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, being good.
I've been running from responsibility my whole life. Like my whole life, my parents been like, God's called you to be a leader. I'm
Myron
like,
don't like responsibility. I know Myron. He don't like responsibility at
all.
Bruh.
Nah.
If he could ride, he would ride. That backseat all the way.
But I mean, that goes back to like who God calls each and every one of us to be, like who His envisioning and purpose and plan are for. It's like we don't get to say to the master craftsman what we are and what our design is supposed to be. So like when you talk about submitting and surrendering, like that has to go down to the very core of your being, to the very DNA of what you think you are. You have to submit that to God so that he can show you what you are truly supposed to be.
All right, Pastor. All right, you about to
See?
Look at it. Look at it.
It sounds like you had a pretty awesome church experience growing up until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And now you're a pastor, which is cool.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, you're kind of like Dante. That's it's not only a Sunday morning thing, but it's an everyday thing for you too. And
For sure.
And there's of course boundaries that come with that to protect yourself and to also protect your spiritual journey, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say, especially for me, I think it helps that I don't identify as a pastor. Like, pastoring is something I do. It's something that God has called me to. But like, if that were to no longer be my calling, now I'm not like lost in like, oh, who am I, God? Like,
I'm just so glad you're not forcing me to call you Pastor Myron.
Nah. Like, in fact, I'm still.
You know how people be
Yeah.
No, I'm pastor.
Do people really do that?
People do that?
Especially because like my church is very much an African community, and they're very much about like their titles and like their achievements and stuff. So it's
Okay.
Evangelist or deacon.
Yeah.
Like prelate. Or
Yeah.
There's in that one.
Like bishops.
Hold on, what's the position you call that?
There's like a lead prelate or
Prelates.
Prelate.
maybe not.
What's that, Catholic?
I've never heard that.
I've seen it in my travels.
Okay.
Maybe they made it up just to make more.
Maybe. Who
designations.
knows?
I don't know.
Cool. So for me, Myron and I went to the same church growing up. I was a musician in church, and Sunday morning service, I was playing it. Monday night, we had youth band rehearsal. Tuesday night, we had adult choir rehearsal. We had to play for them too. Wednesday night, we had Bible study. Occasionally played at that too. Thursday night was like Bible school.
Oh, this is really multiple times in the week.
Friday was youth night.
Yep.
So I went there kicking and screaming and crying, and then I come out like always feeling better. Like, man, I'm glad I went to youth night. It was always weird like that. Saturday was, I just stayed home and did chores. And then Sunday, I go to church again. It all starts all over.
So I was like Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah, I was in church, man.
That's Sunday to Sunday.
I was in church every day. So hopefully, for those of you that do know me out there, you know why I am the way I am. Today, I'm still a musician. I still play at churches, multiple churches actually, on Sunday. And so I am usually where I'm needed to lead worship or to play or do both. And for me, like, I make sure that, like, of course, that I'm not one of those musicians that just roll out and, and tunes out the pastor after,
Rolling up your wires.
Yeah. Gotta go. No, I do respect the pastors that I do play, at the churches that I do play at. Yeah, take time to listen, and I definitely get fed and equipped that way as well. Yeah, for me, that's kind of church for me. And then church also for me very much looks like withLove. And Aaron and Wadi have been like my church, my core disciples, where they hold me accountable, and we meet twice a week and do community and do life together. Amber, she's recently joined that tribe and actually been a part of our tribe for a while now.
Since 2014.
Yeah, you've been here for a while.
But you three knew each other way longer.
Yeah, but
I met all you guys.
But either way, I mean, Amber, you're also like family, and also has been just, to me, that's been my church, my community, where I've honestly felt like they've taught me a lot as well, and I learned a lot from. Definitely like an iron sharpens iron kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been fun. Me and Dante, we've done a lot of church at Bridgeway, youth group, Common Ground. when it was on Sunday nights.
High school nights. Yeah.
We've
Done retreats and
fair share retreats and missions trips and all that stuff. So we go back, but I'm definitely not as involved in church as I was growing up, and I like Wadi, I actually try to make sure I get some downtime.
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah.
Sabbatical. I was going to ask a question about, because you said
I try to
serve in multiple churches on Sunday.
I try to take one Sunday off.
Okay, one Sunday a month? One Sunday a month?
One Sunday off at a minimum every 2 months. At a minimum.
Every 2
ideally
months.
would like to take a Sunday off once a month, but that doesn't always happen that way.
Okay,
it just depends on what's going on, and I feel it too. Like if I wait till like that 2 month mark, I'm like, yeah, it's hurt. I'm hurting. So
You're ready for the break.
Yeah, I need the break. Yeah. So with that being said, let's get to the topic of the evening here. The question was, what are the pros or cons of attending church online? Right. We talked about community, how we grew up, our prior experience with church. Now we're post-pandemic where everything was online, and now people are starting to come out their houses and do more things together. But Dante, right? I'm sure during the pandemic, your online audience probably has grown exponentially.
Yeah, let me speak to that for a second because I think what I'm about to say we can circle back to later in the conversation.
Yeah, and
that is this idea. And this strategic is my number one strength. You were talking about strength finders at some point. I think we very naturally perceive things from like a deficit mindset or like a reaction type of response as opposed to proactiveness. And so I bring that up because when we were in a staff meeting and they were like, we're closing the doors because of this pandemic and we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so me as a producer that I'm producing and directing these services, I was telling my team, instead of us trying to survive, what if we take this as an opportunity to do something that we haven't done before in this way? So the doors are closing. Now we're all online. And thank God that we had the infrastructure already in place to broadcast online.
Right.
So the wiring was already in place. What the pandemic and us closing the doors to the physical building, what that gave us the opportunity to do was we essentially were creating hour-long, short films every week. So a buddy of mine that grew up in the church as well, he's a filmmaker. I'm like, yo, let's shoot this like cinematic. Let's use this to our advantage because now it's all video.
Yeah.
So we can focus all of our efforts into producing and making something that is not just set up a camera and record the set and record the sermon. Yeah. Let's use our gifting in creative arts to make something visually beautiful, and that's our offering to God as we are the work of our hands that He's placed before us.
And for those that don't know, Dante has an extensive background in acting, and he's a poet, and he's all about filming stuff. So this is right down your alley.
It put us in this position where we're like, all right, everyone's freaking out. And at this point as well, you guys are deep in church culture. A lot of churches closed their doors for real, like not just physically, but like couldn't sustain.
Yeah.
And even a church of our size, like there was so much unknown at that time about what was going to happen. Were we going to die? Like that was like literally, we didn't know how
like die like in the grave?
Like COVID.
Very early on, no one knew. Right. Like how serious is this virus?
Is this time to go home?
Yeah, exactly. So there was so much unknown. We were like, is our church gonna make it? All of those questions were definitely at the forefront of everyone's mind. But instead of us thinking about, let's do this to try to survive, I was like, no, let's use this as an opportunity to do something in a new way. Yeah, that's right. So that gave us that direction,
a fresh wave of excitement.
Yeah,
to like try something new.
And so what has sustained post pandemic is, like you said, we have that value then placed on online, because technically speaking, more people are attending online than in the building. Even now, like numbers, the theater is like, the sanctuary is like 60-70% full.
And about how many is that? 60-70%?
That's about 700 on a good day. As opposed to like 3 services, 1,200 people.
Right.
You know, like it's very different. Online, you'll see 3,000-4,000 devices, and like they say, you can count conservatively 3 people per device, because some devices there are more people.
Do you know what it was before the pandemic? Online attendance or device?
I can't.
Number?
I can't recall, but it was nowhere near that.
Right.
So with this increase in demand, now there has to be more thought put towards, well, how do we make people feel like they're in a community online?
And the way we do that is we don't we don't refer to it as just the online audience, but we actually refer to it as another campus.
Okay.
The online campus is kind of the language we use to
Online
give
campus.
it that
cool.
level of importance, because we have our Columbia campus. 5 years ago, we opened up another campus in Owings Mills.
Yep.
It's in the Owings Mills, Reisterstown area. And then, and now we also consider our online to be another campus in and of itself, because we've got some people who were introduced to Bridgeway via online, and then some people like were a part of the in-person, and they've moved to different states. We got different people tuning in from different countries.
Yeah.
Like we see the analytics, and it's crazy to see people from other countries logging in to view services. We're constantly like trying to be mindful and caring for those that are tuning in online, and reserve in terms of how we address them. They are another campus, and there are ways to engage them, and there are ways to foster community among those that aren't able to make it. There's a nursing home that watches our services every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
So like, you know,
They can't actually make
40
it.
They literally
cannot
physically
make
come.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, again, we can be, and this is why this is a great topic, and it might need another part, because I think that, again, going back to like the reactionary type of responses instead of being proactive, I think the natural inclination is for people to kind of like, and I mean this respectfully, but there's a large number of people that turn their nose up to like online church, and that's not real church, that's not real community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the opportunities that exist
There we go.
for you to have an online platform?
Well,
What are the ways you can use that to your
I
advantage?
mean, it's an outreach tool at that point.
Dare I say, could you have more community? Does community only exist in person?
Yeah.
All of this stuff is
big
like
question. Yeah.
all of this stuff like in our world and culturally has shifted.
Yeah.
It's all upside down, because back in the day, how did you talk to somebody? You had to physically go to them, and then what happened? Like courier services, you could send people letters. You know, we're thinking back, you know, before I'm saying before electricity. I'm talking about like civilization.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Pigeon carrier. Like how did you communicate with people? You had to like take a horse and carriage or walk to somebody and
Right.
sit in front of their face and talk. Then you could send letters, and then the telephone became a thing, and then like video call. Now we have Zoom,
Video call, yeah.
text messages. So like anyway, that has 100% changed with every iteration of communication and how we as humans communicate. And so with each change also came new opportunities, and with each change also came the potential for you to connect deeper. I can pick this up and I can talk to someone in Japan right now. I don't know anyone in Japan, but like that's a crazy concept. And if you were to say that to someone 200 years ago, they would think that it's magic.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I
Yeah.
do enjoy about, because I've watched Bridgeway online from time to time, and I do enjoy that it seems like you have facilitators like in the comments section
We do, yeah.
that are like offering prayer.
We call them online clergy. Like we have a pastor that's in there.
And like and people like will post or in the comments like what they need prayer for, or just to encourage one another, or to comment about the service, or even saying amen, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's cool, because it does create that sense of community, because you're getting a kind of a feedback loop here, which I think that's what community needs. Now, you talked about there are more opportunities for community via online. What are those opportunities from your experience?
I think there's something untapped and I'd like to get a pastor's perspective too, because I don't have the answer, but I think that there's untapped potential in terms of how you can serve someone. Because when we think serve, we obviously we think physically being
in person,
there, present, laying hands on, and don't get me wrong, there's power in that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And just our hardwiring and the way God made us.
Yep.
That means something, right?
Yes.
Hands down.
Both and. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is still crucial, essential to us as humans. I think I'm getting sidetracked, but there's something about what was the study where like an infant will die if you were to put it in a crib and like not
To ever touch it?
like
Weird.
something very tragic happens to
Not familiar,
to
but
a baby that is doesn't have physical touch.
yeah.
Oh, they're like, it's I think I recall this. It's like they are underdeveloped, like neurologically and like physiologically.
Yeah, something
It's a
They
trust thing,
become
isn't it? Like between mother
underdeveloped.
for sure. I don't know.
But it's
the
more so
biology
like
behind
that
it, but-
communicate that in person. When to his point, he's talking about that necessity, like how God created us to be physical, tangible in person, and a baby will literally have like setbacks,
I'm sure
neurologically
they'd be
and physiologically.
stunted.
Man, I always say adults are just big kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
So anyway, I think that there's untapped potential though. So still acknowledging that.
Right.
I think there's untapped potential with how you can actually serve someone online or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
virtually,
to your point, for those that are not actually able to physically make it. When you think about people, you mentioned the nursing home. When you think about disabled people who maybe prior to this were not able to join church, like actually physically go in person, I think about people who are still feel uncomfortable. Yes, there's still people to this day that feel uncomfortable being around in a very large group, right? And you have to respect that, right? And so I think to your point, those are some of the things that you have to consider when it comes to that creative outlet online, like how to bring people who normally wouldn't go into a church, whether because of the pandemic or whatever reason, right? There's so many reasons, even pre-pandemic, why people were not going into the church.
With that being said, the next question is, and again, remember the focus is it good to attend church online? We talked about what church looked like for us growing up, because I feel like, online experience definitely is a different experience. But is it still relevant to how we experienced church before and how we experience it now? And I think a lot of that has to do with community.
I think that was a theme that we all talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my next question that leading up to this is, how do you best develop community? To me, like, when I mean that, I mean community in the sense of, taking care of one another, community in the sense of and being inclusive and actually having a relationship with people, building into each other a sense of purpose and value, and empowering one another to pursue life together, that's Christ-centered, that's Christ, that has purpose rooted in Christ. So, in that sense, how do you what's the best way to develop community in your mind? And I'm speaking at this from an objective point of view. I'm not touching yet on if that's best built online or in person. I want to kind of exclude that for now, but just in a general sense, what's the best way to develop community?
Consistency. I will start with that.
We talked about that in our last episode.
Yeah.
We actually ended on that point.
I see. Yeah. Community is built definitely with consistency. Again, not, saying whether online versus in person, but I think what we talked about across everyone's stories when we were younger and when we're older, right? There is an element of consistency in that, and it just so happens that when we were growing up as well as now, it's in person, but there is this theme of consistency when it comes to going to church. Like, you're going to a church, you're going to service, you're being fed, and it just so happens to be in person. But I think whether it be online or in person, it is definitely the key of consistency. Like, you cannot build relationships with people without consistency.
Well, yeah, I mean, and relationship is built off of trust.
Yeah.
And the only way you can trust someone if they're being consistent.
Being consistent. There we go. Yeah. So when you consistently see someone or consistently being there for someone in a time of need, that trust is built.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that, that's our experience.
Yeah, Shum was just talking, he left, we ended our last episode on that point. Why we attend church, and a big part of it is being consistent, treating it like an investment, because relationships require investment.
Yes.
It's hard to build relationship if there's no commitment to where you're going, and no commitment to the people that you're doing church with and doing hopefully life with too. So we talked about consistency, but what else contributes to building and developing community?
I think that you're seeing this. I think it's most prevalent with Gen Z, but I think you see it with a lot of millennials as well. And that is a large number of people in those in these generations are really galvanized around a cause, an activity, and doing something. So, and I think that is the driving force, particularly in a church where you see people really coming together and begin to foster relationships. It's based around an activity or a thing that they're doing, whether it's ministry, like you guys in music ministry, or missions, or youth nights. Like, I think people can really, people can really get behind a cause or an event of some sort, and that's
in the trenches together.
Yeah, I think that like kind of binds people together.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think because at least there's a common ground where people can at least create that sense of belonging and self-actualization to get behind, and you're doing that with somebody, which again, I think that allows you to find something that you can see yourselves in, right? So, okay, yeah, doing stuff together, cool. What else? Well, I'll take one more.
Vulnerability.
I like that. Okay, say more.
For 300. No, but sharing vulnerability, anecdotally, I believe builds relationship, building community. Yeah, being able to kind of take your mask off and be your authentic self and discuss kind of the things you're going through and dealing with, and I think helps the other person do the same and also share a piece of themselves as well. So through that communication, I think fosters and ignites relationship, and that spark thus creates more of a fire of community. And maybe like a subset of that, if the vulnerability is similar, if you're going through similar things, but really just sharing probably a deep part of yourself and it being received, and them reciprocating that style of communication as well, just from what I've seen, really builds relationship, thus community.
Trust.
Because that's good. You do have to trust somebody to do that.
To be vulnerable.
Yeah. So you're automatically saying, I trust you.
Yeah.
There's layers to this.
Such as
well,
life.
all connected. It's all connected. The consistency, the trust, the vulnerability,
trust,
all connected. Even the activity, all of that's connected. Yeah, all of it.
One leads to the other. Woo, look at that. None of this was scripted, by the way. This
is an ebook.
So it sounds like church online or attending church online is a great way. It's a great form of outreach. It's a great way to reach people who otherwise can't attend church in person. But what about the person that can attend church in person, but they refuse to go to church and they only want to watch church online? Or
I think that is the meat of what we're getting to. I think.
What about those people?
Because that was actually in the back of my head.
When I say those people, I mean I feel like that's a lot of millennials today.
I don't know if to say millennials. We're on the topic of millennials. I'm not sure if it's millennials or just people. I don't know, for a variety of reasons, who just don't want to.
I'd say our generation is in a very interesting place in history, because the oldest part of the millennials was like coming up right when the internet was coming out.
Yeah, right.
They're like late 30s, maybe just hit 40.
Right.
So we've seen technology have this huge swing. So it is, I think, an interesting perspective from a millennial lens.
Yeah, it is.
From that regard, there probably was a period of time in said millennial's life, if they were going to church regularly, then they saw the emergence of all this technology and now have the option to go solely online or hybrid schedule like work, So interesting generation to, I think, have a interesting perspective on it. What was your question again?
No, I was just saying, do you discourage them from attending church online because perhaps there's more to gain from an in-person experience versus an online experience? I'm not saying there's a right answer to this question. I'm just asking the question.
We all know something happens when you're in the room.
Yeah.
And that can't be dismissed.
That would preach.
That can't be dismissed or overlooked. Something happens. The question though is, being in the room is going to continually change and evolve with time,
right,
because of technology.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like one day
don't
we're gonna
know.
get to a place where we're gonna have like virtual holograms sitting
Yeah.
in seats,
I don't
Yeah.
know if that constitutes.
and you can feel
the room.
the bass in your chest.
You would be in a room.
In a room, right?
Yeah.
Virtual
In a
room?
room.
Yeah,
Nice.
physically being
The metasphere.
with humans.
the metasphere.
I mean,
Well, Sony just came out with the
Yeah.
virtual reality
Yeah.
goggles, right? So I mean, shoot, you could be
and shoot,
front
who
row.
knows? Maybe
Well,
50
them-
years from
them
now, we'll all be
and the
proven
Apple
wrong.
ones.
The interesting thing to note
Yeah.
about if we were to take Atari, like
Uh-huh.
Pong,
Yeah.
and compare that to Madden, the most recent football game. You know, you ever go to someone's house and they're playing Madden, you got to double take.
Yeah,
It
see if
looks real.
Watching an actual game,
Right.
yeah.
So if you compare a 1980 console Atari to a 2023 PlayStation 5,
Right.
the PlayStation 5 almost looks indistinguishable from a
Real
football
thing.
game on television.
Right.
Yeah.
You compare that to the Atari, the rate of growth. If you extrapolate that to 50 years in the future,
From now.
it's
Exponential.
this is actually technically speculative.
Gamer,
It's
that movie.
technically
Yeah.
speculative,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's kind of fact. At some point, a VR thing will be indistinguishable from real
We'll all
life.
have avatars.
It's gonna transcend that. It's gonna be there will be no difference between
I'm talking like the movie.
unless like
Yeah, we're getting into like AI stuff. but
I know,
go
I know.
ahead. Yeah.
Like unless an asteroid hits us and we blow up, like if things go in the trajectory they're going in, if everything happens,
Yeah. Yeah.
if everything stays on track the way it is right now, the rate in which technology is growing, there will be no distinguishing between
In
this
person
and
and online.
and VR.
And VR.
Our current iteration and understanding of VR now is archaic compared to what it will be
yeah.
Yeah.
in the future. So you take Atari and Madden and you multiply that in the future, like to what we're experiencing now with VR.
So you feel like
goggles
you will be able to
more-
feel, you'll still be able to feel, have that in-person connection that we're talking about, that
Like
tangible
it would be
feel.
like
You
a 4-dimensional.
yeah,
experience.
4-dimensional, actually being able to feel in all the sensories, even if two people are not in the same room.
I think it will be indistinguishable. You could put right now it's primitive, but you could put a vest on, you could put goggles on, and you could put controllers in your
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah.
and you'll feel things. But take the vest, take the goggles, and take the controllers, and then fast forward 30 years in the future.
Yeah, and
it's gonna
sense
be part of
everything.
you. It's gonna be part of your body. It's gonna
Yeah. That's nuts. Well, so
like Elon Musk is doing the
Right.
the
Neuralink.
the Neuralink
Yeah.
Yeah.
chip in the brain.
Yeah.
It's
well,
gonna,
That would be very
kinda
useful
that,
for
that's kinda
international
that,
couples.
that movie Chappie.
good call.
Like Chappie.
Oh yeah, Chappie.
Yeah.
I love Chappie.
Chappie's good.
Or like Gattaca.
Well,
Throwback.
miss you with that one. So we gotta wrap it up. Unfortunately, this is a great topic though. That maybe we'll do a part 2, but for now, I think we have to leave it here to say
Did we
that.
come with a consensus?
No.
No.
Well,
No, inconclusive.
Tune in for
coming-
part 2.
I'm
or
I'm coming
Just got
to.
started.
I'm coming to some sort of consensus, at least for this
that
part.
there would be another part.
That there will be another part, but it sounds like that, you know, the online experience is something that is now evolving into something that's just as much demanding as in person, even though an in-person experience, there's still nothing like being in person.
Yeah.
But the online experience is ever changing and ever growing to a place that
Maybe one day.
maybe one day it work. And let me end it on a biblical point. God's presence is everywhere. I want to say that too, that like, you know, no matter if God is moving in person at church, God can also move in your bedroom. God can also move at the nursing home. God can also move in your prison cell. Like, I think that God's presence is omnipresent, and so therefore the move of God and what that experience that God has for you can still happen as long as you're tuned in, right? And as long as your intention of attending church is really true and authentic, and with the intent to connect with God and to connect with others. Because I mean, it's important to not only be able to, you know, get fed the word and equip yourself for the week or for your life, but also I think it's also important, even online, to establish that community through texting and commenting and talking and connecting with other people. So
To that point real fast.
Yeah.
I like what you just said there at the end, because in truth, the question isn't like, is being in church better or being online better? the real question is, what is your purpose for it? Like, what are you actually aiming towards by doing one or the other? Because, like, I mean, I could be like, even my mom loves going to church in person more than anything. But she received a healing from a neck injury that she had for 2 years through an online service. Like, the man of God spoke to her. And she received her healing like instantaneously. Like doctors couldn't do anything for her.
And that's physical.
Physical from watching it on a TV screen in her own home. She received her healing like that.
Wow. And she had to pay for it.
They had to pay for it.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a testimony.
And I think a ending note is we have like the cross. We have the vertical with God when it comes to church community and attending church and just doing your whole Christian journey. So the vertical and then the horizontal. You mentioned about when it comes to online communing, texting, doing other things online beyond just watching it and absorbing. So whether you're in person, because you can be in person and still be tapped out. True. And you could just be being fed, to your point. You could just be being fed. That's the vertical. But then the horizontal is missing. That horizontal, the people to people.
And what is that form, y'all? Across.
A T.
A plus sign? What is it?
Well, with that being said, check out this ad.
Thank you for joining the Do Everything with Love podcast. If you'd like to continue to take the journey with us, please hit us up at withLove across all streaming platforms. Our music is everywhere, all right? And if you want a physical copy, hit us up at bandcamp.com, and you might even score yourself a signed copy of our album. Thanks.
Alrighty, well, welcome back. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode of Do Everything with Love podcast show. We just want to end things off with a few announcements. That being said, first things first is don't forget to follow us at withLove Music and at our charity foundation, withLove.rise. Dante, why don't you go ahead and shout out your handle for the people out there?
It's just Dante Shepherd.
And how you spell that last name?
Sheppard. Dante is Dante.
Yeah,
spelled the right way.
Spelled the right way. Ooh.
The correct way.
So yeah, please follow my brother on Insta. And we're also on YouTube too, same handle, withLove Music. Same thing goes for our Patreon, withLove Music. And shout out to our nonprofit, Let Love Rise Foundation. If you're a nonprofit, a church, or local organization serving the Baltimore or DC community, and you are in need of volunteers or serve your organization from day to day, then partner with Let Love Rise at withLove.org. You can access a whole base of volunteers who are willing to serve your cause and get behind your cause. All you have to do is sign up on withLoveRise.org, post your event or position that's in need. The website will then publish that out and try to get volunteers to come serve at your event or position that's in need. And so we're all about mobilizing, unifying volunteers with local community organizations to make our world a better place. That's something that we want to leave as a footprint here on this earth, that no matter where withLove goes, that we're also leaving a mark in how people love one another and serve one another and do that together. With that being said, thank you for listening. Tune in next time, subscribe, and follow us. Love God, love people, and do everything with love.